All right, everyone. Well, I think we're going to get started here. If folks join us late, that's fine. And we are recording this session, so this will be posted up on our YouTube channel as well as on the website. So if there's anybody that misses out on it, or you have anybody from the unit that wants to see this later on, you can direct them there. I know we have some troops that are obviously having troop meetings at this time, so it's hard to get everybody at any one particular time. So we'll make this available to folks so they can see it afterwards. But good evening and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're excited to kick off our 2022 Scouts BSA Resident Camp season. And boy, today was a really gorgeous day. It was a kind of day that makes you start thinking about summer camp. So we haven't had too many of those lately. So definitely looking forward to getting out to camp and seeing everyone out there. So we're gonna have a presentation here for you. We've got some slides to run through, some information. You can feel free to put questions into the chat box there, or if you've got something you want to ask as we're moving through, you can, if it's related to the topic we're talking about and you want to throw a chat question in the chat box or raise your hand, feel free, you can do that. Otherwise, we'll have time for questions at the end and be happy to answer anything that you've got going on. All right, and so let's jump right into things here. And I wanted to start off with some kind of quick highlights of where we're headed for this season. We have got our Centennial Celebration going on this year. 2022 is our 100th year as a camp, and so we've got a lot of activities that are happening all this year related to that centennial. So we're really excited to have all of you here as part of that. We also happy to say that as we sit here in May, we are not anticipating any COVID-specific restrictions on our programming, food services, or anything else related to that. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later on, but I have one slide that talks about COVID type stuff instead of, I think at this time last year, I had about 10 slides or 12 slides that we were going through. So I think we're in a much better place, and hopefully that'll lead to a much better camp experience, less restrictive camp experience than what we had in the last year. Because of that means that we're able to return to our family night program that we had to put on hiatus for last summer. I know I was at a troop meeting about, a month or two ago, and that question came up. Parents were asking if we were going to be doing family night again. I said yes, and I believe that got actually a round of applause when we said that we were doing family night again. So we're happy to have folks coming back out and joining us for camp. And of course, we have our STEM Week program, which is a fantastic opportunity for Scouts to come on out to camp, even for a second week. If your troop is coming during weeks, the first 5 weeks of camp there, having a Scout come back out for another week as part of STEM Week, it's a great opportunity for them to get an opportunity to come back out for camp. And there's a special reduced rate of just $250 for that second week of camp for any Scout that has been with us already once for that season. So we announced this a little while back, but we're going to be offering chess merit badge, digital technology merit badge, game design, healthcare professions, which is a new one for us. We've never offered that one before. It's actually a new merit badge. This is what used to be medicine merit badge, and now it's healthcare professions merit badge that just switched over back in December. Radio merit badge, which was actually one of our first STEM Week merit badges that we did when we offered our first STEM Week, and we haven't had that one brought back since, so that's been a while. And the Nova Shoot Awards. So got a good program to offer to the Scouts, so we'd love to see them coming out to camp for STEM Week. All right, so start off at the top. Few changes in terms of our staff. Well, some changes, some consistency here. And joining me in the leadership of the camp staff this summer, I'd like to introduce Josh Clark, who most of you know. Josh has been with us for many years, served as both Trail to First Class Director for many years, Scoutcraft Director. In fact, just this past 2 weekends, he was out at National Camping School serving as a faculty member, training other Scoutcraft and Trail to First Class directors that'll be working in camps this summer. He was part of the faculty that was training those new staff members. So we're happy to have him joining us as program director this summer. Jana Keelan has retired from that role after many, many years of wonderful service that we're very grateful for. She's still going to be around at camp this summer. She's still going to be doing some stuff, but she wanted to step back from that particular role. So we're happy to have Josh stepping up and bringing his years of experience into that position. We're happy to have back Quinn Ciccolella, who joined us last year as a commissioner and is returning in that role. His outstanding unit service and great liaison to all of you in the campsites and the troops. Our Joel Uline, our property manager / ranger extraordinaire, who we couldn't do any of this without him. And we're very happy, and I know he's on the call here tonight as well. We've got our head cook, Sean Dibble, returning, so we're very excited to see that. Sean is a fantastic cook and also a fantastic member of our team. Really joined us and really became part of the family last year. We're really excited to have him back, and lots of experience, camp leadership experience and scouting experience, which is invaluable in that role. And then just happy to say that we have got a really awesome staff that has been put together, including a lot of very experienced area directors. All of our area directors that are returning this summer have all been area directors before, and all have, let me rephrase, all but one has been an area director before. The one who hasn't been an area director was in that area the last couple of years and is just ready to step right up and do a fantastic job in that area. So it's a very experienced crew. You're going to see a lot of familiar faces in the leadership roles within the camp, and we've got some really fantastic instructors joining us on camp this year. Josh and I did interviews a couple months back, and we were really excited with the crew that's joining us, especially some of the CITs, which we'll talk about that in just a few moments here. That said, with all the great people that we've got joining us, we do still have a few needs. I've put this information out there. We are still looking. We need to get Sean some help in the kitchen. You know, he does a fantastic job, but he can't do it alone, as try as he might. So we are really looking to get an assistant cook in there to help him out in that position. Somebody that's 18 plus. We're looking for some additional food service staff members in there to help out with that as well. And 2 instructors. We're still looking to fill one more instructor position in the community safety area and one more instructor position in the ecology area. So if you have any scouts or older youth or others that might fit the bill for one of these roles, please have them apply. This is, it's a fantastic opportunity. There's a salary, room and board is included for all these positions. It's a fun team environment. The fact that we have such a legacy of staff members, people that keep coming back year after year, is a credit to the environment and to the team environment that we've built. And it's really kind of a sign of what staff members can expect to experience if they join us out of camp. Some of us have been doing this a really long time, and even our younger staff have been doing it for many, many years. So anybody that's interested can apply online. They just go to the camp website and they can just look under the About Us and select the staff box there, or go to rsrbsa.org/campstaff, hyphen between camp and staff. And there's a online application that they can fill out. And we'd be happy to talk to them about a possible position joining us at staff this summer. We also have, in addition to that, our counselor and training program, and we've got a really great team of CITs. Josh and I were talking, and we're really impressed with this group that we interviewed this year. But we have, I think it's 8, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, about 8 CITs, but if we do have room for a few more. So if you have some interested scouts, Josh is going to tell us a little bit about the CIT program.
Yes, hello, good evening, everyone. So our CIT program is for 15-year-olds and first class scouts, with the aim of giving them some more leadership experience, giving them some job experience in the fun atmosphere that they know of camp. They'll spend staff week and the first 2 weeks with us as CITs, and many or majority of them are welcome back for the rest of the summer. They spend half the day working in program areas, functioning similar to a counselor, and the other half of their day is they're working on their personal advancements to keep the fun moving and going and building their teamwork. Let's see. Yes, so any conflicts of leadership and any troops that are there, we greatly facilitate having them with you back in your campsite if you desire that.
Yeah, that last point there, just we know sometimes troops are a little hesitant. Scoutmasters, like, I got this really great scout. He or she would be a fantastic CIT candidate, but I'd really hate to lose them for the week because that's the senior patrol leader that I really need to make the troop run that week that we're at camp. Well, they can do both. They can be a CIT, and the week that you happen to be in camp, they can still camp with the troop. They can eat with the troop. They can do all that stuff. It's just that when everybody goes off to program, instead of learning the program, they are helping to teach the program. So it's still an outstanding opportunity, fantastic leadership experience. And I know we've gotten great reviews from parents who have raved about the experience for their scouts and for how they've been affected and changed for the positive as a result of that experience. So the application for a CIT program is the same as the staff application. So that link I showed you on the last slide, rsrbsa.org/camp-staff is the same place for CIT candidates to apply. All right, so just a few notes on registration because we do have some upcoming deadlines coming. We have the balance of camper payments is due on May 15th. That's next Monday. That's why we're scheduling this meeting for tonight. There's a nice little reminder here for y'all about the upcoming dates. So that means that for those camper deposits that were put in earlier in the year, the $100 deposits, the balance, which would be a remainder is $375. If you have not already paid more than that, is due next Sunday. There is a late penalty that kicks in after the 15th. It's $50 per scout. So we want to make sure that we get those payments in on time. Weeblos crossovers, however, do have an extended time for that. So you have any Weeblos crossovers or new scouts that have just joined the troop within the last month or two, those scouts have until June 15th to be able to register for camp without facing the late penalty. That wouldn't kick in until June 15th for them. So if you're registering that late crossover, I know a lot of them are still coming over to the troops. They can just be registered to your unit as a Weeblos crossover. You can just add them in there, and that kicks in this later timeline. There is a sibling discount. This is something we introduced last year. It's a $40 discount that applies to the second sibling in the pair and every sibling thereafter, if you have triples or quads or whatever the case may be. So there is no automatic way to make this kick in the website like we kind of had hoped it would be the case last year. So it just needs to be entered in through the back end. It doesn't take long. What we just ask is if you do have siblings in the troop, please just shoot me an email, and my address is right there on the screen, campdirector@rsrbsa.org. Just tell me the names of the siblings. Usually we can pick it out because it's the last name. Sometimes it's not. Let me know the last name, or let me know the scouts' names, and we will take care of adding that that sibling discount to one of the youth. Okay, so the first one is full, and then the next one's $40 after. So just in terms of when you're looking at that. All right. So in terms of the registration, we want to make sure this moves smoothly. So last year was our first year with Blackpug, and we're all still figuring out some of the wrinkles associated with this, and there can be some confusion at times. To do the registration, or to complete your registration, I should say, all payments do need to be submitted to Blackpug. Please don't send a check to the office or stop by with cash or a check or a bag of gold doubloons or whatever it is that you want to bring down to the council office to pay. Everything should be going through the website. And we've tried to make it easy for you. If you go onto the camp website, I've given you the mobile version look of it right here, but if you go onto desktop or mobile version, the big blue bar right at the bottom of the picture of the lake, it says sign in here for Blackpug. Click that link and it'll take you to where you sign into your account. Please don't go through the council calendar. If you do that, you're going to end up creating a whole new registration for the troop and not actually continuing to add payments to your existing registration. So just go to the link right there on the camp website, rsrbsa.org. You'll sign in the upper right-hand corner, and up in the upper left, it'll say activity. And that's where you go select that and find the activity link for camp. And that's where you can go in and submit additional payments and such. When you do this, okay, if you have not yet already done so, when you are paying for the scouts, there is some information that we are requesting, and it's actually required to complete the registration. Obviously, it's the name of the scout. We are asking for gender. Let me explain why that is. With the reason that we added gender into the mix this year is to make sure that we have the right adult leadership in place for the scouts that are supposed to be within the camp. We had an experience last year with a unit that had both boys and girls that were there, but only male leaders, and that's not YPT compliant, and we didn't catch that until they're standing in front of me on Sunday afternoon at check-in. So this will help us to make sure that we're flagging, the fact that, as we said when we did the registration information that went out earlier, we are asking if you have Scouts that are in a boy troop and Scouts that are in a girl troop, they really need to be registered separately as separate troops within the camp registration. If you've gotten to this point and you haven't done that yet, if you were putting girls in with the rest of your boys or boys in with the rest of your girls, please email me about that so we can fix that and straighten that out, and they can still camp in the same site. It's mostly about the registration side of things and making sure that the paperwork is kind of squared away. But we need the boy troop and the girl troop to be registered separately. And the girl troop has to have a female adult leader 21 and over. For the sibling discount, please register this, put the Scouts' names should be in there. There should be a creation of that registration, and then email me because I have to have something to apply it to. So the kids have to already be in there. Doesn't mean that you have to have fully paid for them, but they have to have had the deposit in there, or something in the registration so that I can attach the discount to one of those names. So as again, information that's requested: name, gender, BSA membership number. I'll get back to that later. We're asking for the BSA membership number for all the Scouts to be entered into their registration. The parent phone number and email. This is again just to give us contact information. We can send out blast emails to parents if we need to, if there's any kind of information. It's not that we're necessarily planning on doing a lot of that, but even just for an event like tonight, the fact that there are adults registered on there, we can start sending out more contact information so people know what's coming for camp. Birth date, we're asking for that. That's been something that's actually data that I've been looking for years. There's some reporting that we need to do that having the birth date is very important, and it helps us to develop programs and plan our programming accordingly. And we do have a couple of things, as you might know, on the schedule that are age dependent, where you have to be a minimum age for the shooting sports or for COPE. So this will help us with that as well. So those are the pieces of information that you will need to enter when you're registering a Scout. For adult registrations, the adult requirements, first of all, these are the requirements that that an adult must meet in order to come to camp. So this is anyone over the age 18 and over, okay, 18 and over. Notice I'm not using the word leader. Sometimes parents are like, the leader is that guy over there. I'm not a leader. I'm just, an adult that's here for the ride. I'm a parent. That's fine, but all adults 18 and over need to meet these criteria to come to camp. These are, if you are accompanying the Scouts to camp, you're staying overnight, this is what kicks in. We have to make sure that you have a current youth protection certificate. So BSA youth protection must be up to date. And we need to clear every adult through the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services background check. And so this is for every adult that's coming and accompanying the troops, spending the night, what have you. One night, doesn't matter. We need this information for each of those individuals. There's an additional requirement that kicks in if the adult is going to be in camp for 72 hours or more. And that 72 hours doesn't necessarily need to be consecutive. It's 72 hours across the 1 week of camp. So it's not come into camp for 71 hours, run out, go grab a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, come back in and reset the clock, and get to do the additional 72 hours. If you're going to be in camp for 72 hours or more, then the adult needs to be registered with the BSA. And here's a new note. This is something that actually we just came across this year. We got this word from National. It's something that I hadn't seen before, but it is policy, is that the leaders are to be registered to the unit that they are accompanying to camp. So that means, some of your adult leaders might be registered as a merit badge counselor. They might be registered as a district level volunteer or a commissioner or some other title that's not directly associated with the unit. They do need to be registered with the unit that's accompanying them to camp. And that's really to protect you. That's to make sure that the unit leadership and the chartered organization, I should say, the chartered organization is approving those adults to be accompanying those Scouts to camp. Now, keep in mind that you can be a multiple registrant, which means that if you are an adult that is registered as a commissioner or merit badge counselor or something like that, you're not registered with the unit, you're already paying your dues to that role, then you can register as a multiple with the troop and fill out the paperwork, troop submits it. In fact, actually, I think there's some new stuff that you can actually just do the multiples on the my.scouting.org. The unit leadership can do that. I don't even think it needs to go through Sandy at the office anymore on that. I think you can handle that right within there. And there's no additional dues payments for that person. So it's really just making sure that the unit has signed off on the fact that, yes, we're comfortable with this adult leader being with us in camp this summer. So giving the chartered organization that role. And these policies do not apply to short-term visitors. So anybody that's coming up just for the Parents' Night celebration, you come up on for dinner, you stick around for the campfire, you hop in the car and head home, this does not apply to you. You're coming up to drop off shoes to replace the muddy ones, does not apply to you, right? These are the things that are for people that are accompanying their units to camp. Before I move on, does anybody have questions about these policies here, the requirements for adult leaders?
I was just curious, how do we account for part-time adults coming up with registration?
Yep, so that is the next piece, Carrie. So there's kind of two answers to that. And Brian, the short answer to that, Brian, is yes, and I will come back to that in just a bit. I'm talking about the medical forms. So in terms of the question that Carrie just asked about registering unit leaders that are, or adults that are going to be in there for a partial week, which most of you have that situation where it's going to be a partial week. The Black Pug registration system cannot deal with that, right? It doesn't have the ability to recognize a partial leader for the week. So here's what we would like you to do for that. So within Black Pug, when you are signing up your adult leaders, let's say you have 2 adult leaders that are each doing a half a week. And that, for our purposes in Black Pug, that's 1 leader, right? It's 2 people filling 1 position for the week. And so just register 1 of those individuals in Black Pug, because that is how Black Pug calculates the cost that is owed for the unit leaders. Every troop gets 1 free adult leader for every 8 youth, and then with a minimum of 2. If there are extra adults beyond that ratio, then the cost is just $100 for the week. That basically is the food costs for the individual for the week. Or that number can be prorated if that person's only doing half a week and that's it, right? There's no other person filling in the second half of the week. So by only putting that, so we have 2 adults that are combining to do 1 equivalent week for an adult leader, just put 1 of them into Black Pug. It doesn't matter which one, just put 1 adult in there, they're a placeholder, just so that the system knows, okay, we need to charge based on that 1 adult leader. And that'll take care of that. There is another point, though, where we do need more information on all of the leaders, including that second person. Does that help answer the question there, Carrie, for registering them for that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, so that's how we do things for that. And I apologize for the fact that it is a little complicated here. We're trying to serve 2 masters here. We have to take care of some information that we need for New York State for the background checks. And then we also have the payment stuff. And there's kind of 2 different purposes here. So it has to function separately. We don't want to overcharge you. So we don't want you to add every partial adult, every person that's going to do 1 night, 2 nights in the week into the Black Pug account, because that's going to treat all those people as full weeks and you're going to get charged extra. We don't want to do that. So just put in the person who represents, the equivalent weeks that you're going to have amongst your adult leaders. The second piece of this, though, is the background check piece for New York State. And so that one, we have a form that we've created. It's a Google form, looks just like what you see here on the screen. And that is, it's linked to on the camp website. I will send that out to you all. I will send the link out to all the units so that you have the link to that. It's also, if you download the camp planning guide, the link is embedded in that camp planning guide. You go there. Every adult 18 and over that is going to come to camp to accompany the troop, regardless of their length of stay, as long as it's not just a short-term visit like Parents' Night, needs to be submitted through this form. Okay, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to enter their first and last name, the date of birth, their YPT date, right? So YPT should be complete before camp. Their BSA registration status, basically saying whether or not they're registered with the troop. So you're going to submit all that into this. It takes few seconds per adult. It doesn't take a very long period of time. You're just going to enter first name, last name, date of birth, boom, boom, done. So as long as you have the information ahead of time, you can enter this all really quickly. And we ask that you please do this by June 1st. This information needs to be submitted to New York State. We send that all to them. They send me back a fax that usually hopefully says, we have cleared, 373 people and there are no violations, no problems on this form. So that second bullet on the sheet there says, please clear as many adults as possible prior to camp. And the reason for that, the explanation for this is, let's say you've got scouts that are coming up to camp and one of them maybe is missing home one night, or for whatever reason, parents decide, it's a beautiful night. I think I'm going to go up to camp and I'm going to hang out with my child at camp and spend the night tonight. That person shows up at camp at 5:01 in the evening, shows up at the counter and says, I'm here to spend the night with my scout. We're going to check them against this list of pre-cleared individuals. If they're not on that list, we have to turn them away. Right? They cannot spend the night. And two things, if they show up at 5:01 p.m. after the state office has closed, we can't do a last minute call in to the state office to clear that individual. And so there's no way to clear that person again until the following morning. Even if the office is open, having people show up at the counter multiple times during a day or during the week creates a lot of additional work for the staff in the office to have to be constantly calling the state office, and there's restrictions on how many people we can call in at a time and things like that. So I'm imploring of you, and we've gotten pretty good at this over the last couple of years. First year it was rough. After people got the hang of it, the last couple of years, it's gotten a lot better. Please just run all of your adults. Just take your whole roster, take your adult roster and parent roster, even if they're not registered with your troop, but you've got the parents, run them all. Just ask them for their birth date, put them all through the system. It costs you nothing. It costs us nothing. It doesn't actually cost us a penny to run this background check. And this is another useful service for you, is that you're getting a free background check on every one of your parents and adults that is hanging out with your scouts and going on activities and going to troop meetings and things like that. And that's a great opportunity, right? To have that extra little bit of confidence that everybody is okay on that. So if you could just run everybody that way, somebody decides at the last minute that they're going to come up to camp, no problem. They're on our list. They can come into camp. So strongly encourage you to just go ahead and take every parent, every adult leader that you've got in the troop, and just submit them in through this Google Doc and go through. That's correct, Gary. If they don't have YPT, they're not going to be able to stay. They still have to meet those other requirements. They still have to have YPT in order to stay and go through the DCJS. So both of those would be required. They don't at this time have to be registered with the troop unless they're staying more than 72 hours. That's where we sometimes get that parent who isn't a registered leader, but decides maybe their scout has called them and they're missing home. And so they're going to come up and help stay the night so that they can stay through to camp. And maybe they've taken care of the YPT, or if not, they take care of it in the afternoon. It takes an hour. They can take care of it and come up to camp. They can't get background checked and go through a BSA application in an afternoon though. So that gives them the flexibility to be able to respond quickly to that kind of situation.
Brian, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Mary Pryor. How do we confirm? Is there a way to confirm to make sure you have the names, like my name, my brother's names that are?
So you're going to enter it in there.
It's already been done. Yeah.
Okay.
It's already been done, but how would it be confirmed? So when we get there in July, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we don't have that name.
So I will double check on this, but I thought I had it set up so that you would get a confirmation email when you've submitted the person. And that would be your confirmation, is that, the form should be set up so that you get an email back from Google. It comes from Google. It doesn't come from me. It's an automatic thing. I know. So, okay. But it should come back that says you've submitted. An answer to this form. And then once you've submitted, if you don't hear from me, that's good news. If you hear from me, well, you're probably not actually going to be hearing from me. You're probably going to be hearing from the Scout executive if something kicks up poorly on this list. But hasn't happened yet, so we're hoping that will still be the case. If they ever have a point where you're not sure if you submitted them or something like that, you can reach out and I can send you who I have. But yeah, you should be able to get a confirmation list.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. I've had that question before, so good question. Any other questions on the adult registration requirements or youth protection stuff? Okie doke. Moving on. I promised you just one slide on COVID, and this is it. So we are at this point, not anticipating any COVID-specific program modifications. We think that we're hopefully in a pretty good place right now. I know we have some elevated numbers in the Capital District and upstate New York right now. We're hoping that that'll be in a much better situation by summer rolls around. And we take our cues from the schools, especially, and how the policies are at this point, where there's no masking requirements, and social distancing is very different environment than it was a year ago, or even at the beginning of the school year. So, and we've always been in a better situation than the schools anyway, because the vast majority of what we're doing is outside, where we have better air circulation. That said, we do still have some general health and safety principles, right? If you have somebody that is not feeling well, they should not come to camp, right? And that really doesn't matter if it's COVID or if it's the flu or anything else like that. Anybody that's feeling not well should not come to camp until they are feeling better. If they have a fever, any of that stuff. Those rules were in place even before COVID happened. So any symptoms like that, particularly anything that could be contagious, especially stuff that looks like could be COVID, we need to make sure that those scouts or those adults are staying home. We'll still be doing the health med checks and the screenings when scouts come in and leaders come into camp, and temperature checks and things like that when folks arrive at camp on Sunday. But general rule, if you're not feeling well, stay home. If you've recently tested positive, stay home until you're negative. And all the same policies that are in place right now within the schools. This does mean that we shall be returning to single shifts in the dining hall. I'm waiting to see how big Sean's smile gets in seeing that. No more double shifts like we did last year in the dining hall. That was a COVID accommodation. We don't anticipate that we're going to have to do that this year, but that'll be better for everyone involved. So our meal times will be our traditional 8 o'clock, 12:30, and 6 o'clock for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We also think that staff will be able to sit amongst the campers again, which is a tradition that we unfortunately had to move away from last year for social distancing reasons. And we think we can go back to that this year. So that'll be great. Participants are always welcome to wear masks. If you feel more comfortable wearing a mask, you are welcome to do so. You'll not face any sort of consequences or any sort of anything as a result of that. As an example, I've actually gone back in the last week or so to wearing a mask in school just because I think it's been helping with my seasonal allergies. It has absolutely nothing to do with COVID, but it's just helped out a little bit with that. So, for a week or two, I'll throw the mask back on and go from there. But that's our COVID expectation for this summer. Obviously, we're monitoring things. We are getting information from Department of Health, and we're following all the other kinds of things that are out there regulatory wise. If anything changes, you'll be the first ones to know. But at this time, we think we'll be in pretty good shape. Medical forms. The complete annual BSA health and medical record is required for the following groups. All campers need to have an annual medical form completed with Part C, as you see on the screen here. That's the part that needs to be signed by a medical examiner. Maybe not a medical examiner, that sounds really bad. A doctor. We don't want a medical examiner, that's the autopsy. It says examiner on there. That's what that threw me on there, but I don't think we want that. Your doctor, PA, whoever it is, needs to sign that part. That's all campers, and all adults that are going to be staying in camp for 72 hours or more need to have the full Part C with the doctor's signature. This also includes all adults, I'll come back to that point. This also would include all adults who want a buddy tag. If you are going to go on the water, you have to have the Part C. Same thing with the tower. If you want to do the climbing tower or cope course, you have to have the Part C. So if you are an adult that is coming into camp for 1 hour just because you really want to go for a swim, we need a Part C. We need the whole medical form for that individual so that we can issue a buddy tag. Can't issue a buddy tag without the Part C. If the adult is not planning on going in the water or going on the tower, and they're going to be there for less than 72 hours, they do not have to turn in the Part C, but we do need at least the Part A and B1, B2, which is all stuff that you can fill out individually. The A and B sections do not need to be signed by a doctor. They can all be filled out by the adult, him or herself. And so that gets turned in, but that gives us a health history, that gives us contact information, emergency contact information, should we ever need that during your stay at camp. Something we started to do last year, we'll offer this again. Some troops requested if they have the option to be able to turn in their medical forms in advance so that we can kind of look them over and make sure that all the missing information is there. We will work with that. We will do that. We really need those forms given to us by at least the Monday prior to your arrival. And those should be either mailed to us or hand delivered to us. They really shouldn't be sent electronically. They're not supposed to be sent electronically to begin with. I know we will sometimes get those doctor's signature got forwarded on the last day or so minute sort of thing, but medical forms are really not supposed to be electronically sent. And when a whole troop is sending them electronically, it becomes a real challenge for the medical officer to wrangle all of that. So yes, I have a hand raised by iPhone. So yeah. Question, you're on mute.
What is a buddy tag for the swimming
Good question.
area?
Good question. So a buddy tag it's a little paper disc that is your ticket to the waterfront. If you are a scout, if you're an adult leader, anybody that's going to go use the waterfront, we have gates at the entrance to the waterfront for both the swimming and boating areas. You are issued a buddy tag at the beginning of the week that's got your name on it and your troop number on it. You take a swim test when you come into camp on Sunday that determines whether you are a non-swimmer, a beginner, or a swimmer. And that's the swim classification. It's the BSA Swim Test, which is found, you can find it online. It's in the various merit badge requirements as well. And depending upon how you do on that swim test, it gets colored in. And that tells the aquatic staff where you're permitted to go on the waterfront. So if you're a swimmer, you can go into the deeper areas. If you're a non-swimmer or beginner, you can go into the more shallow areas. But that is your ticket to entry onto the waterfront. Nobody gets onto the waterfront without it. And nobody can get a buddy tag until you turn in your health form. So you turn in the health form during check-in. Medical officer issues you a buddy tag. During our Sunday check-in, they take that down to the waterfront, do their swim test, and then that's their ticket to aquatic fun the rest of the week. Okay. Any other questions on health forms? Okay. Again, that is an annual requirement for everybody to do the health form there. If a form expires in July, is it good for all of July? Yes, that is correct. So a form is good till the end of the calendar month in which the date expires. So to use Rob's example, physical is 1 year on July 15th. That form is good till the end of July. And at which point a new form is needed. Anything else? All right, we have our program here. We have our program schedule that we released earlier. I'll let Josh take it away here. Josh, you have anything you'd like to share with us about our program?
Yeah, so you guys could possibly have noticed that we have 2 new merit badges this year are new to our daily schedule. Both public health merit badge and pulp and paper merit badge. Public health we have done as a STEM merit badge before, and pulp and paper is fairly common run by some camps out west. Really trying to embrace that, give some experience there. The rest is pretty straightforward for your experienced adult leaders. Just to note for our newer adult leaders, do consider the age appropriateness that we note on this form, just to make sure that your scouts are going to programs that we think are going to be more engaging and fun for their age level and experience in scouting, especially with those EGO required. Yeah, I'm ready for the next slide.
Most of those are just recommendations based on age. The only ones that do have age requirements are COPE, which is not climbing merit badge. Climbing merit badge does not have any minimum age, but COPE does, and rifle shooting and shotgun shooting. So those do have minimum ages.
So we have, you saw the merit badges on the slide before. We do have some non-merit badge programs, like their challenging outdoor personal experience. That is often associated with the climbing merit badge. The whole afternoon, scouts are with our COPE staff doing team building, games and doing the high ropes course at the end of the week to continue facilitating that outdoor program leadership and advancement of our older youth to encourage them bringing back that to their units. We also have our lifeguarding program. The BSA lifeguard cert works just as well as the American Red Cross or any other lifeguarding thing. So a scout can get this at camp and go and work as a lifeguard or provide coverage to a water-based outing or come work for us because we always need lifeguards. That is a full day program. The Twin Rivers Council Navigator Award was developed several years back to really push our aquatics programs to really get everyone continued interest in the aquatics beyond a couple of years going into it. If you were to look at the requirements which are on our website, you can pretty easily find that from our website's aquatic section. The majority of the requirements are what you need for Eagle already. There are 2 Eagle Merit badges as well as some additional merit badges and activities. So if you are looking to see if your scouts want new patches and new awards, this is something most of your older scouts are already done with or just this close, and they could finish that within the week here, which is likely. And then, yes, STEM week. We mentioned STEM week ahead of time earlier in this slide. And our Trailer First Class program is our first year program designed to introduce your crossovers and first year scouts to camp life and BSA's outdoor program. It's designed to fulfill some requirements that may be hard for you as troops to accomplish, like orienteering and some of the swimming requirements and whatnot. We're looking to increase our troop participation in our TTFC program this year, either with to help keep that retention of the skills learned and covered. So we're looking for an adult leader or an older scout like a senior patrol leader, guide, or instructor to help to be actively involved outside of session time to continue that the progression in your own unit. Additionally, we'll be offering a TTFC takeout, which is a program we run in the past some. During open program time, you can sign up with our Trailer First Class Director, Tori Booby, to either have your scouts, either individually or the full units, come and work on a specific skill at the Trailer First Class area or your campsite, depending on the skill, for specific requirements or general things you may need as a unit. All right, Brian.
Josh,
All right, thanks.
Can you just explain that TTFC takeout thing a little more? I didn't quite follow what you mean. Like, is it an app? Like, our kids have already finished Trailer First Class, so I'm just not sure I understand what you're saying about that piece.
So there are more requirements than we cover, obviously, in Trailer First Class. There may be that one scout that didn't finish their orienteering course, and it's the reason why they're not first class now. And that is something our staff is more than capable of accomplishing in an afternoon, but may be impossible for your unit to realistically accomplish that. So we want to facilitate those requirements during that time. Some units have used this specifically for those a single requirement like that for an individual, or they may have a couple 5 or 10 scouts that need something more specific, like they need all the nature related requirements of animal identification, the weather, and poisonous plants and stuff like that. So we can work with multiple. So not necessarily what we already have in our program, but what's within the rank advancement requirements.
Sounds great. And how do we follow up to find out more about that? Is it
I know we'll. So we will be sending out more information on this, but it very much can be we've decided this as a unit the week before camp. Let's interact with the Trailer First Class director or myself as the program director the day you show up or during the week.
Thank you. And sorry, one last question on
Mhm.
that. Is that like, does that happen during like open program time at 4
Yes.
o'clock? Okay, thank you so much.
Afternoon or evening program, depending on how we schedule it.
Okay, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
It's really designed to be flexible for the unit. So as long as the staff and the unit can get together on a time to make it work, we'll make it happen for you. So one other thing to talk about here in terms of our program, you can see the image on the screen there. Thanks to a generous donation, the council has recently purchased, and we're excited about an Aquatics inflatable for our waterfront that will look very similar to the one that you see on the screen there, although we promise that it will descend into water and not a concrete parking lot. That would be much more painful. This will be arriving this summer. The one thing that I do need to hedge a little bit on is that because this all happened fairly recently and we know what the kind of the global supply chain is like, this is being manufactured, I believe, in the Netherlands, or is where it's coming from. And based on the company's delivery estimates, we could be looking at anywhere from arrival during the middle of week 1 to the middle of week 3, based on what they are telling us for projected arrival time. So it is possible it may not be in place for the beginning of or the first week or two of camp, and we apologize for that, but it is coming. We're excited about that, and we will have more to say on that as it comes forward, and it'll be a nice add-on for our aquatics program. Okay, so Craig had a question in the chat there about merit badge registration. So here we go. Last year, we did our first time with online registration. It worked out really well, and we're looking forward to doing that again this year. So online registration for merit badges and programs begins next Monday at 7 o'clock. So May 16th at 7 o'clock is when merit badge registration goes live. That doesn't mean you have to be logged in immediately at 7 o'clock on the 16th. It just means that that's when it opens up, and anytime from there forward, you can sign Scouts up for merit badges and their other programs. You'll notice that this is right after the May 15th payment deadline. So those two things are related. In order to register for a program, a Scout needs to be fully paid. So payment deadline is Sunday. Merit badge registration opens up on Monday afternoon. Now, I've had this question a couple times. We know that the crossover Scouts have until June 15th to be able to submit their payments without having to worry about the late fee. And that's true. They still can. They do still need to be fully paid before they can register for their program. But remember, most of our crossover Scouts are first-year campers who are going to be doing the Trail to First Class program that Josh was just talking about there. There's usually not a lot of overlap between the programs that first-year campers are doing and the programs that older Scouts are signing up for next week. So I really don't anticipate that there's going to be an issue with, first-year campers signing up after the older Scouts have already gone through. Older Scouts are going to be signing up for swimming and Bsa and things like that. First-year campers are typically signing up for Trail to First Class, some of the handicrafts badges, and others that are appropriate for their age level. So there shouldn't really be an issue. There really wasn't an issue with this last year, and we had the same situation, which is that the first-year campers were able to pay and sign up at a later point than the rest of the Scouts were. If they're concerned about it and they're ready to go, they can register as soon as they're paid, so they don't have to wait until June 15th to pay for camp. They can sign up as early as they're paid. You will notice that there are going to be class capacities for all the classes. We do this to ensure that the classes remain balanced, and in some cases it's because of safety or supervision ratios that are appropriate. Particularly for things like the waterfront badges, we would need to make sure that supervision ratios are met. Sometimes it's equipment wise. You only have so many sailboats, you only have so many kayaks, so we need to make sure that we don't overload a class there. And sometimes it's for the best experience for the Scouts. Sometimes our first year handicrafts badges are smaller sessions just because those Scouts need that more individualized attention. They need the staff members to be working with them in low ratios. And so we want to make sure that the Scouts have a positive experience through that. Something else that you may run into, but you probably won't, is that there are you could run into a troop capacity within a merit badge. And these will vary depending upon the merit badge, right? Some merit badges can accommodate larger groups than others. But the troop capacity is separate from the class capacity, where let's say you have a merit badge where there's a class capacity of 8 scouts, there might be a troop capacity of 4. And what that just means is that one troop can't come in and drop 8 kids into a session and block it out for everybody else, so nobody else gets a chance to jump in on that. So it just encourages you to distribute just your scouts all around a little bit. It's not going to prevent scouts from being able to, from multiple scouts in a troop attending a particular session. We know that they need to do that for buddy system. We know they want to do that because they want to be with their friends, not looking to challenge any of that stuff. But we just want to make sure sometimes a very large troop can come in and block out a whole bunch of classes because they've got all their kids kind of tracking together, and we want to make sure that there's distribution for everybody. So unless you're putting lots of kids in one particular class, you're not even going to notice this, but there will be those limits in place. For scouts, when they're registering for a session, if there is something that you do get to and they do run into a waiting list, we really didn't have many waiting list situations last year. Last year was our first year doing this, even with COVID level capacity limits, COVID-driven capacity limits. We really didn't have that many waiting list situations. There were probably at most 5 to 10 in any given week, and that's high for some of the weeks. But if you do have a scout that runs into a capacity limit, you can register them for the waiting list for that class, and then register them for something else. So you want to get them into 9 o'clock swimming, that one's already full. Okay, so we can register them for the waiting list for 9 o'clock swimming. And meanwhile, we're going to sign them up for 9 o'clock forestry. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I don't know what time these are offered, but like something else. You can sign them up for another badge that they'd like to do in the meantime. What'll happen is that prior to camp, usually just a couple of days before camp, when we see where our staffing levels are, we see kind of get the lay of the land, see how many kids are on a waiting list for a particular session. I'll go through, and where possible, I will move people off a waiting list and into a session, even if we expand the session by a little bit to accommodate those increases. And all that will do is it'll take that scout and we'll put them into the session that they were on the waiting list for, and we'll drop the other session that you had as the backup, and they're in, and you get a notification that that has happened. If the session is just too overloaded and we can't add them in, then they just go with the plan B, right? The plan B that they had already signed up for during registration. So that works out really conveniently. It's very easy to do. When you're signing up scouts for the merit badges, you just go through and just click. You just select the sessions that they want for each one. The registration happens in the same account that you use for your payments. So that same blue bar across our website that says sign in for Black Pug here, click that, sign into your account, find your troop registration for the summer. And then for each scout, you'll see a little red update information button. Click that, opens it up. And after next Monday at 7 o'clock, the same spot where you'll see their name and their gender and all those other fields that you had to fill in, there will be a box that will pop up at that point that will have the schedule in there. And you can just go and click on the sessions that they want, and they're done. If you've clicked and you've selected it, as long as it's not telling you that they're on a waiting list, they're in the session, right? There's no confirmation. You can see it, they're in it. Okay, there's no additional confirmation that's needed. That is the confirmation. So that will open up next Monday rather at 7 p.m. And continue on after that point. And you can make changes if you go in later on and you realize, okay, this scout changed their mind. You can go in and just swap them out up until registration closes, which is usually just a day or two before the start of your week of camp. So you've got all the next month or two to do that. Okay. Any questions on the registration piece? Okay. So something that we're going to try this year. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Are you guys allowing parent portal?
The parent portal is there. If you as a unit or have chosen to share that information and set that up with people, then you can use it. It is a function that the website has. And it's turned on, but it's not something that we actively promote or anything like that. The reason being, I wanted that decision to be in your hands as unit leaders. If you wish to let parents have that access, you can. But there's also, I think, probably some situations where the especially even for registration and payments and things like that, to have one person at the unit, whether it's your treasurer or your scoutmaster or whoever is the kind of the conduit for that information that's going in. That means the scoutmaster knows what's going on, right? And that they are aware of what kids are signing up for. They're aware of what the registrations are and things like that. If you choose to release that responsibility to the parents, you can do that. But if not, you can control that process and know what's going on. Oftentimes the unit leaders are a bit more better informed about what would be appropriate merit badges for a scout of a particular age or experience level. Same thing with when they're registering for camp itself. We want to make sure that somebody in the troop knows who's paid and who hasn't, to make sure that that is all taking place. So there can be real advantages to channeling that through one individual. But if you want to use the parent portal aspect of it, you can do that. Okay. There are some programs that adult leaders can sign up for. We will open that up for you all after the Scouts have gone through, because there's a little bit of overlap. Some of the things are just things that the adult leaders can do, and you don't need to sign up through the website to do them. We've got activities through the week for that. Some of them, like for example, if an adult leader wants to take COPE, that's great. Adult leaders can take COPE. Adult leaders can do some of our aquatics programs, like a stand-up paddleboarding program or things like that. Aquatic Supervisor, there are things that they can sign up for. We will open that up for you all sometime after the Scouts have signed up, probably in mid-June or thereabouts. We'll open that up. That way, for the ones where there is an overlap, the Scouts have the first shot at it. So, Scouts are signing up for COPE, and if you want to sign up for COPE, great. We just want to make sure the kids get a chance to sign up first, and then we'll open that up for you to be able to sign up for COPE as well. Anything else on the registration piece? Signing up for programs, merit badges and such. Okay, so this next piece is a little different. This is new for us. We're planning on giving this a shot this year. And this is opening up another one of the capabilities of the Black Pug system. This is a change that we are envisioning as giving flexibility to you. Right now, we know that there are units that are fully on board with like the Scout book model of everything's done electronically, all the record keeping for their merit badges is done electronically, and they're very comfortable with the Scout book model. There are other units that are still very preferable to the blue card method of recording and keeping track of merit badges. We believe that what we're going to be able to do this year, we'll be able to give flexibility to both of those groups to be able to do things the way they'd like to do that. And we're going to use the technology of the Black Pug system to do that. So our plan, and I will tell you, we could pull the ripcord on this and bail out of this if we decide ultimately that it's not working out too well. We could reevaluate this as the case may be. But our plan at this time is to record our merit badge records in Black Pug. It's set up for that. There's a lot of capability for the staff to be able to record merit badges, very quickly and electronically, just clicking on the requirements for individual Scouts and for their individual classes. So the staff would put this information into Black Pug. At the end of the week, then, you will have access to that information within Black Pug. And then you can do one of two things. If you are a unit that likes Scoutbook and wants to use Scoutbook and records all your data in Scoutbook, there is an export feature where you can take that data that's in Black Pug and export it and bring it right into Scoutbook. So it's recorded there. You don't have to go in and data enter all of the blue cards that were earned at camp that summer. So that's one option. The other option is that if you don't want to use the Scoutbook, you certainly do not have to. If you want to stick with more of a traditional blue card type record system, all you have to do is throw some paper in the printer. If you want to make it blue paper, you can make it blue paper, but whatever color paper you want to stick in there or cardstock to stick in your printer, there's going to be a way that you can go into the roster and just print, and all of your troop records will print to blue cards. If you want to get the cardstock from National that they sell of official blue cardstock to run in the printer, you can do that. You want to just run printer paper in there and have it print off, you can do that too. But you will have the option to either export to Scoutbook or to print to blue cards. The advantage of this is that the troops retain the digital access to BlackPug, right? So you can still log into your troop accounts from last year. Now, we didn't do this last year, so that you're not going to find any merit badge records in there. But say next December, when you're looking for, somebody lost their blue card for swimming merit badge, rather than having to go through us, which you could certainly still reach out to us, but in the past you would have to contact us. We issue a new blue card and mail it to you. You can just go into your BlackPug account and you can find that record right there. You can pull it up right there. So that means the Scouts will not need to bring a blue card to class on the first day. The Scoutmaster's approval is when you're signing them up for the merit badge. Okay, so that Scoutmaster approval is, you've entered them in through BlackPug, you've signed them up for these 3 badges, you're giving your approval for them to take those. That's another aspect of something to consider when you're thinking about the parent portal. If you're going to use the parent portal, the adult leader should still review what the parents have entered. Because like I said, sometimes parents may not really understand what's involved in a particular merit badge to the same degree that an experienced adult leader does. And so you're going to want to review those, and you can make those changes. You can go in and say, yeah, he's not ready for that yet. And that first year camper probably shouldn't be doing Bsa, so we're going to move them out and put them into basketry or whatever the case may be. Okay. Okay, let's see. So I know that's a new one that we're throwing at you. So other questions related to this? This will be new for us too, new for the staff. We think it's going to work. As I said, I reserve the right to pull the ripcord and hand you all blue cards when you walk in on Sunday if this doesn't work out so well, but we'll give it a shot. Other questions from anybody on this?
Will you be able to enter trail to first requirements on BlackPug?
That is a good question. I will have to look into that. I will have to look into how that can be done. My guess is probably yes, but we just have to figure out how to set that up. I haven't looked at it on the inside yet. If not, we will do what we've done in the past, which is giving the certificates and stuff to the Scouts to be able to turn in. But that is a good question. Thank you, Jonathan.
That was my question. And the second part is there a digital signature in there? If there was always a signed card or a note. If there's a question 6 months or December about it, do we go through you? I mean, is it black?
Yeah,
as opposed to the old day where I'd say, look, we had a student who lost a geocache merit, card, and then you guys go back and pull it up in the records and send it to us. Is it it's weird for us, the way our troop is set up. As I'm the Scoutmaster, our treasurer is the one that does the registration because he makes the pay and the BlackPug account. And so going through the stuff, I then have to get it from him, print it off, and give it to our committee chair. And so if it's in there, it's as good as signed. Is that what we're sort of thinking?
So the staff would basically be going in, and they'll have a class, 9 o'clock first aid, and they're just checking a box that will complete the requirements for those of you that have used Scoutbook to do any merit badge recording. It's a very similar process. They can just record the completions of that in there, and then you will see on your end the completions for your youth for those merit badges. And the one thing about BlackPug is it is incredibly feature rich. Sometimes it can be a little opaque in the user interface side of things, but it is very feature rich. There are a number of reports that you can generate if you'd like. That you can generate reports by Scout, you can generate reports by merit badge session, you can generate reports by all this kind of stuff, so that you can get those records. And yes, there would be an ability for you to just go right into your account and print the merit badge records for your Scouts. But if you do have any questions, yes, you can still reach out to me.
I do have one second question. I have at least 2 Scouts that are going to go for the second week, probably STEM week. How do their parents then register them? How do I access their records from a week when they're not there with our troop?
Let me look into that. I don't have an answer for you on that one, so I will. But that is a good question, and I will look into that for you, Jonathan. If need be, we can issue blue cards for Provisional Scouts. That wouldn't be a big deal, in terms of the total numbers. I do want to avoid a situation where we're handwriting out traditional blue cards for some units and doing online for other units. I think this is a healthy medium where both types of units can get the record keeping that they want, either digital export to Scoutbook or print off the blue cards from Blackbug, and then they'll have the paper record. I have to look into, but this is part of the reason why we're asking for the BSA membership number, so that it can help with that transfer of information into a Scoutbook type system. But I will look into specifically the provisional question, Jonathan, and we'll get that information out to folks. Thank you. Other questions? Okie doke. Food service. I know that this picture is not at all representative of the quality and healthy food that is provided at camp. We provide wonderful balanced meals and lots of really high quality food, but it was just a great picture. And the cookies are good. So I just felt like including that in there. So sorry, Sean, I don't mean to degrade the quality of the output there, but we have Sean Dibble returns. So we're really happy to have him back. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be able to get away from the shift meals that we did last year, the 2 shifts. Staff are going to be able to eat with the campers again, which we were not able to do last year because of COVID. At this point, we're anticipating that we're back on normal operations for food service. Please, if you have any, within your unit, if there's anybody that has any specific food related allergies or any special dietary needs, we ask that you please reach out to Sean prior to your arrival at camp. Several days, even a couple weeks before you arrive at camp. Sean has an email address, food@rsrbsa.org. He will get back to you if he has questions and confirm with you what we can do to help your scout or your adult leader to make sure that they have the food that they need to make sure that they're having a good week at camp. So please communicate that information with him through that email address. Something else that we're going to offer this year, it's not going to be required, but we are going to set it up so that parents can purchase their barbecue tickets online before coming up to camp. I'm still working on the logistics of how that's going to work and how we'll get that about, but we're going to basically put a link on the website so that you can purchase your barbecue tickets online. That way you can use credit card and do all that stuff. And it's we're hoping that will speed up the process of people coming through the office on barbecue night because we won't have to do quite as many transactions, especially credit card based type transactions. That said, everybody is still going to need to check in, right? Because everybody that comes into camp, regardless of when you come into camp, needs to sign into camp, needs to be identified, needs to get a wristband. So even if they are purchasing their tickets ahead of time, they do need to stop in, sign in, get their wristband. We will basically, my plan is we'll have a list of those who have pre-bought their tickets. So we'll have to close this probably on the afternoon of the barbecue. They'll be able to purchase tickets all the way up until a certain, like maybe noon or 2 on Wednesday. We'll have a list printed off. They come in, say, Brian Murray pre-purchased. Yep, here you go. Here's your 3 tickets, and off you go. Right. So that's a plan. We're going to see how that works out, and I think that could really facilitate movement through the line on check-in for the family barbecue. So everybody does need to check in at the office. One thing is that at this point, we are still TBD as to whether or not we will be offering the pig roast at the barbecue. We will definitely be offering the chicken. We haven't yet made the decision on the pig because we're waiting to find out the cost of pig. We're under the understanding that has gone. Pigs are flying, or at least the price of pigs are flying these days. And so it may be cost prohibitive for us to do that, but it is something that we're looking into, and we're waiting to hear back from our vendor, and we'll get that information out to everyone as soon as we have that. But if we don't do the pigs, we're still gonna have chicken, we're still gonna have all the sides and all the rest of the stuff that we do for the family barbecue. We're just not gonna be able to do, we may not be able to do the pigs if it becomes, I'm hearing numbers that are stratospherically high that would make it difficult for us to offer that, but we'll see on how that goes. We are still going to be doing the cafeteria style service in the dining hall, as well as like we do on barbecue night. So yeah, we're not going to do the buffet. My guess is buffets are probably going the way of the dinosaurs for quite a while after everyone's experiences of the last couple of years. I don't know if anyone's going to any grand buffets or anything like that these days, but we will be sticking with the counselors providing the service in a cafeteria style. Any food questions? All right. Something in terms of our inclusive scouting program. This is something that, scouting as an organization, as a national organization, has been making some real progress on in recent years. Scouting has opened up to girls a few years ago. Scouting has opened up in a more positive and inclusive fashion towards the LGBTQ community. And so representing that, National now has some new guidelines in place that they just sent out to us about 2 months ago. For transgender scouts and non-binary scouts. We know those scouts are a part of our community. We welcome them to camp. We had scouts last summer that were part of that community, and we are, as I said, we welcome them at camp. But National has now given us some guidance for you as terms of guidance for any such situations within your troops at camp. This is coming from National. The answer is that transgender scouts are allowed to camp in a tent with a scout, with another scout of their gender identity. So if they, the gender that they identify with, they may camp with another scout of that identity. In order to do that, there does need to be prior written permission from the parents of both scouts. Okay, both scouts that are going to be in the tent, if they're going to share, there does need to be prior written permission from both parents in that case. We still have the other youth protection guidelines are all still in place. All this is in the planning guide that I've posted on our website, the camp planning guide, and the details of all this, and several pages of details of what the YPT policies are for national BSA policy. So that means that 2 scouts within a tent cannot be more than 2 years apart in age. Male and female scouts still have to tent in separate tents. Male and female adults, unmarried, need to tent in separate tents. Youth and adults may not tent in the same tent. In the Scouts BSA program. So all of that still applies, but in terms of our transgender scouts or non-binary scouts, these are new national guidelines that are in place. Now, obviously this is something that really falls to the unit level, right? This is something we don't have any involvement as a staff. We don't have any involvement in your tent assignments, which scouts are tenting in which tents and who's tenting with who and all that stuff. That's something that happens on the unit level. So this information is for you to be aware of, to work with your scouts and your families. If you have transgender scouts in your unit, this is the policy now for BSA for camping activities. Any questions? All right, we will, as this is our centennial, we will have some opportunities for some centennial gear. Last year, because of COVID, because we couldn't be sure we were even going to be open until we actually did, because we knew parents weren't going to be coming in on Parents' Night, we made the decision to push all new apparel and trading post stuff solely onto a website so that people could pre-purchase that and eliminate the inventory risk for us during the summer. We are not going to do that. We are going to have a website that will be up hopefully within the next couple of days that we will push out to you if you would like to purchase any Centennial apparel. That apparel will also be available in the trading post. So we will have basically be doing it in both. Though if you're looking for more kind of limited sizes, kind of the extra 3 and 4 XLs or tall sizes or things like that, you're going to want to get those on the website because we won't carry those exclusive sizes in the as they call it, the brick and mortar, although it doesn't involve any brick or mortar at our trading post. But those things will be available. T-shirts and hoodies and hats and things like that will be available in the trading post. But the online store, we're just working out the final details on that, and that should be available within the next couple of days. So all that new stuff will be available there as well. And you can see the picture of our fancy Centennial CSP set. So if anybody is a patch collector out there, we haven't publicly revealed this. I've showed it to a few people. We haven't publicly revealed this. These patches have been ordered and we will have those this summer as well. It is a really cool looking patch set. Each of those patches represents a different patch in Rotary's 100 years of history. So we'll have those available as well. So bottom line is trading post will be a little bit more heavily stocked than it was last year when we were dealing with kind of the COVID situation. And we will also offer the complimentary online trading post portion as well. So in terms of information about camp, your planning guide is the best source of information. Go to that council or go to the camp website rather at rsrbsa.org and you scroll down. The first bar is how to log in for Black Pug. The next bar down is going to be the link to this planning guide, right? The Scouts BSA planning guide. The Cub Scout resident camp planning guide is there as well. If you have any scouts that are attending Cub Scout camp, that's there. And you just click on that, boom, it takes you right to this document that has all the information I could think of to include. If there's anything in there that you're missing, always feel free to reach out to me. My email address is there, campdirector@rsrbsa.org. We gave you Sean's email address, food@rsrbsa.org, for any food related items. We are active on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. This meeting will be posted to our YouTube channel by tomorrow, so that if anybody missed it, they can catch up on it. We're a little less active on Twitter, but we do have a Twitter account as well. But Facebook and Instagram and others are a place to go to find out more about what's going on at camp. And with that, I think I have talked your ears off enough. So I'd like to turn it over to you all for any additional questions that we may not have covered here.
Brian, will you be posting or emailing the Scoutmasters the merit badge course schedule?
It's already on the website. That's
on the
up there,
website.
that
Fantastic.
grid,
Yep, I didn't look. I was just curious. No problem.
Yep.
Thank you.
that grid that we showed on the one slide, that's up on there. It's also in the planning guide. So you can just pop up the planning guide, and it's right in somewhere in the middle. I forget what page number it's on, but it's somewhere in the middle there. Also included in that planning guide are things like prerequisites. Not all merit badges. In fact, most merit badges do not have prerequisites, but some do. Some also have requirements that are not necessarily a requirement, but are strongly recommended. It's easier to get it done if you can do it ahead of time. There's a full list of those listed in there as well. So you can check that out. Craig?
Hey everybody, just quick question on Provisional Scouts. I only have 2 scouts that are actually able to attend summer camp during week 5 this year, and one of them may be doing CIT. So just curious what the plan is to share sites with other troops and maybe do Provisional Scouts, because I'm willing to take on additional scouts that don't have a home, or we can combine in with another troop. So just wanted to get some answers on that.
Sure. Yeah, Craig, we're planning on putting you in with another troop so that you can kind of share those leader resources in that way. And if you're interested in taking on a couple of provisionals, that's fantastic. We'll happy to take you up on that. So the provisional program, for those that aren't familiar, these are for scouts that are attending camp without their home troop. So sometimes it's a scout who couldn't make it the week their troop was going to camp because maybe they're going on a family vacation or have a sports camp, or it's a scout who wants to come back for an additional week of camp beyond the one that they did with their troop. For those provisional scouts, we will, let's take week 6 STEM week out of it for just 1 second. I'll come back to that. But for all the other weeks of camp, what we do is we will connect those scouts with an existing troop that's in camp for that week. So for example, Craig as a unit leader just volunteered, he'd be willing to take on a couple of scouts. So, and we know Craig, so we would attach a couple of scouts to him and become part of that unit for the week. Or, we've got several units that we've worked with in the past on this that do a great job with hosting our provisional scouts for us. Any provisional scouts that are coming from the same troop, we will always put them together unless requested otherwise. I think that's only happened once. They say, don't put me with my guy from my troop, but usually they want to put them together. So we will certainly do that for you. Week 6 is an exception because we usually have a large number of provisionals due to STEM week. And so we will have 1 or 2 provisional troops set up. We've already got a few leaders recruited for that. We're happy to take other additional volunteers. We have some others that we'll be talking to, as well as staff members that will help fill in the leadership responsibility for those troops. We may still place a few people with troops because if you request a troop and that troop is okay with it, great, we're happy to place you with them. So even if it's week 6, you come in and you say, hey, I really want to camp with, troop 58. And, Carrie said, it's okay. I know the troop, some of the guys from that troop, fantastic. We're going to put them with you as long as everybody's on board with that. Otherwise, we'll put them into one of our existing provisional troops for STEM week. But the rest of the weeks, we don't usually have enough scouts provisionally to justify a full troop or 2. So we will place them in with other troops. We have a question here about activities for adults. Some of the programs that are open to youth are also open to adults, things, non-merit badge programs, but there are things like COPE. If you wanted to take COPE, you can do that. Some of the aquatics programs like the stand-up paddleboard they can do. Adult leaders can do BSA lifeguard. There are other, activities similar to that. There's a aquatic supervisor program, which is a training. If you're familiar with the safe swim defense and safety afloat, that's kind of like a basic level version of the training necessary to lead aquatic activities with scouts on let's say a troop outing. The aquatic supervisor program is a little bit more intense than that. It's basically a full week program of I think it's a couple hours a day for the full week to be able to do that aquatic supervisor program. That's open to adult leaders, primarily taken by adult leaders. Those you will be able to sign up for through Black Bug. Throughout the week, there are other kinds of open activities that you don't need to pre-register for. There might be there could be an open shoot at a rifle range. There could be an open climb. There's other things like that adult leaders are welcome to participate in as well. There's also usually other things that we will come up with as we're getting into the nitty-gritty of camp planning and during staff week, as far as activities that the program areas want to do for open programs. Josh, not to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you've had any thoughts on that, if there's anything you're planning to do with adult leaders.
We classically run our trainings. I mentioned a couple of them on there. We'll continue to do none on the spot that I can think of that we haven't historically run. I mentioned Leave No Trace. I mentioned IOLS. I believe IOLS requires the advancement committee of council.
Yeah, so we're not sure if we're going to be able to do that one yet, but we'll work on that.
Historically have been able to pull that one off, but Brian already mentioned the aquatics, but yeah.
So we'll have some more information. A lot of those usually come together fairly close to camp, because the first weekend in June, I get the camp staff together for the first part of our training, and that's when that synergy happens. We start getting people in the room and they start coming up with ideas and plans and things like that. And then we'll be able to start rolling those things out as we get closer into the camp. And we'll have some stuff for adult leaders to do as well.
If I hear there's enthusiasm for something, especially from a particular unit with multiple individuals, I'd be more than happy to facilitate that within our program. Anyone who has any sort of enthusiasm to work with. So.
And in terms of trainings, a lot of the BSA trainings have shifted to online. Like even youth protection, used to be something you went and took at a class, and now that's entirely online. Now, of course, our adult leaders need to have YPT before they come to camp. But if there are other BSA trainings that leaders or adults want to do, there's a great opportunity. If you've got that new parent that is, Scout just crossed over, you've got a mom or dad that's coming up to camp for a few days, and you want to kind of get them brought into the program as well. Even if it's an online training, we do have Wi-Fi and we do have computers available in the camp office that adult leaders can use, adult participants can use, but there's also Wi-Fi in various other places around camp if they want to use their own devices. What better place to sit there and knock off a few of the online scouting trainings than when you're at camp? And so it doesn't take an additional night out, where you have to go to a training somewhere, on a weeknight, while you're working. So encourage any of those new adults. This is one way that you can help move them from being that new parent to a trained leader faster.
Get that hook in them for scouting.
Yep. Other questions? Okay, well, so one thing that we started last year, because everybody was getting so familiar with Zoom and comfortable with this, was that we shifted our traditional Sunday night meeting where the leaders all check in and get all your stuff together. We have dinner and then we all get together and talk about the stuff for the immediate week. We shifted that to a week before camp and meeting on Zoom instead of meeting around picnic tables under the Grizz Pavilion. And that seemed to work out pretty well. And that's an opportunity for us to, at that point, we will go over kind of the nitty gritty of, what's check-in looking like on Sunday, and here's the schedule changes for next week, and all those kinds of things that are more micro targeted information as opposed to this more sort of macro presentation. So we're going to plan on doing that again this year. So each week prior to your arrival, we'll send out the information on where you can join in on a Monday night for information for that leader meeting. And so again, we'll get into sort of more of the nitty-gritty details on some of our program opportunities there. But Josh and I will stick around. I think we have a few other staff members here, but we'll stick around for a few minutes. And if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask us, feel free. Otherwise, thank you for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful evening, and we can't wait to see you out at camp.